The most underused, insanely undervalued, trash talked for no reason, vaulted legendary champions of 2022 that you need to start using if you have a spot for them in your team, because of course all accounts are different. And I mean, there's just so much to talk about. Be nice to these champions. Let's go. What up, team? It's your MurderInc here, back again with another Raid Shadow Legends video. Today we're talking about the most undervalued, underappreciated legendaries in the entire game. Now, one thing to talk about first, listen, every account's different. I'm going to show you some champions that for you, you're going to say, oh my god, this legendary is amazing. I get it. That's going to be true for, I want to say 2 or 3 champions for a decent portion of people, but I'm basing this off of the literally over 1,000 takeovers I've done, moderating the general Discord, and just seeing early game chat, how players are reacting to certain legendaries. And you guys won't believe, and hopefully this helps a lot of people who have some of these champions vaulted. Now listen, I have some champions that are vaulted that are considered the best in the game because they don't fit for the content that I personally do in this game. That doesn't make them bad at all. So I'm not going to suggest that just because you have someone vaulted, it means that you think they're terrible. That's not what I'm getting at all. But some people do have champions vaulted based on bad reviews, based on a combination of things that are really hurting progression. So I want to go over, I believe it's going to be 7-8 champions total that if you guys have them vault, you might find some use. So I do want to talk about them a little bit in detail. All right, team. So the first one I want to talk about is going to be Countess Lixir. She was a guaranteed champion event 5, 6, 7, 8 months ago. I believe it was a decent bit of time after the Astralon fusion. Maybe it was before. Actually, I think it came out during then, so disregard the before remark, but she's very strong, and for some reason people can't justify using her, or they're not using her. Something about their kit reads wrong to them, and I just don't get it. You have an A1 that's a weaken, decent. I mean, it has a 50% chance of placing on a double hit. 50% chance on an A1's rather strong. You're gonna notice a trend here, but the A2, a triple hit, decreased speed and decreasing turn meter, progression control. This is insane. I cannot say how good this is. I've used her before, and I mean, of course, I've used all of these champions in testing, but this is such a good skill. It is a 4-turn cooldown that is long. I do understand that for sure. But moving on to the A3, time dilation, attacks all enemies, has a 75% chance up to 100 if booked of placing block active skills. Fantastic debuff. But the kicker is also decreases the cooldowns of all ally skills except this champion's by 1 turn. This is so good in something like Relentless gear, so good in Reflex gear, Refresh accessories. This is like it's not as good as a Kymar. I'm never going to compare a champion like this to Kymar, but it's the same principle here. It's not as good as Renegade to an extent. This also has decreased speed, weaken, block active skills. So there's a lot going on in this champion's kit already. Going over the passive really quick, this one's specific with Astralon, removes 1 debuff from Astralon, and this champion at the start of each turn. This is good. The fact that it's random isn't the best. If you're facing a hegemon, it can remove an attack down and not block active skills, and then what are you going to do? I've been a clear advocate of saying just remove all randomization of this, have it always prioritize CC abilities first, then crowd control abilities, then finally stat decrease abilities. I think that's just the most logical way to approach it. Next passive, it fills this champion turn meter by 5% each time an ally receives a debuff. This is strong, like I said. Incredible progression champion. So if you have her, you're not using her, think about what I just said about the kit, see if it applies to where you are progression wise, and get her working in your roster. She's going to help you out a ton here. The next champion is going to be an interesting one that I want to talk about. It's going to be Ignatius. Now, some people probably know, and this is why I said it's going to be kind of split on this topic, how good this champion is. But there are some people who, I don't know if they don't understand the tooltips or all this other stuff, but they just don't get it. Why is he so good? So I'm just going to skip right ahead to the A3. We're going for the bread and butter here. 5-turn cooldown, 100% chance to land when booked, HP burn debuff that cannot be resisted, so you don't need any accuracy for this champion. None. Not even a little bit. Now, you can weak hit and it cannot apply. True. Very true. But that's it. If you don't weak hit, guaranteed 100% chance. Why is this so good? Spider. Spider is one of the biggest roadblocks for so many players. So why this champion's constantly overlooked on all of the accounts I go onto, I'm not sure. They're using like Achik and Mordecai and all of these other champions. I get it, they're epics, and I get that there's a legendary book requirement for this champion, but he's so good. The fact that the best stages to farm for Spider fit with his affinity, so there's no possible chance of a weak hit, is crazy. On top of that, he has an AoE provoke, which if you wanted to add some accuracy you could, but not needed. This guy hits insanely hard. Not that I'm saying use him as a nuker, but you can. Great synergy with Torment. And then an A1 that has a chance to stun, only 25% chance to stun. As you can see, I didn't even fully book this because I had one use for this guy and one use only. Spider. So his aura on top of things increases defense in all battles by 25%. That can help a lot of players out in many different places. So this guy, incredible progression asset to so many players. Why he's always in the vault, I really couldn't tell you. Maybe it is something I'm overlooking with legendary books being crazy hard to get. I do understand they are crazy hard to get, but this guy's like the game changer for Spider, because like I said, the stages, even where he's weak affinity, I mean, I've taken accounts that have been stuck on, I want to say stage 15 Spider, when all the way with their gear, whether it's 4-star, 5-star, with Ignatius to stage 25 Spider. Now they're farming it at a relatively good speed, consistently 100% win rate. So that's the strength of this guy. He's that good. So like I said, even outside of Spider, using him for dungeon waves, hard hitting guy. He has AoE HP burn, which does tons of damage. He can provoke them if you want to gear him with accuracy. That A2 hits like an absolute truck. He gives defense. He has the chance to stun. So just a brilliant kit overall. One of the older champions, and it's nice to see for sure. Which brings us to our next champion that I've been kind of hyping up in Hydra a lot, because this guy's crazy for Hydra, but what about everywhere else? Why has he received such a bad rap over time? So let's kind of go over his kit really quick. He has a defense down on the A1, only a 40% chance, so nothing crazy high, but still could be used. A2, brilliant. When fully booked, 3-turn cooldown, decrease accuracy, decrease attack. Huge for progression. A lot of dungeons have debuffs that are lethal. Lethal to so many players, and this gives you such a good chance without having to go crazy on resistance. No one's building resistance for progression teams. You get it passively through Great Hall, through random substats on your gear, but this guy's through the roof. He's based on HP, so 100% crit rate, stacking full survivability. He's going to do a decent amount of damage on top of things. He has this passive here, which makes him so good. I cannot stress this enough. So good for the Hydra. Placing a shield on him, working a little bit like the accessory that I'm forgetting the name of, Blood Shield. However, people were saying, why not just put someone in Blood Shield instead of Champ Fort? The Blood Shield item gives you such a small shield. It gets broken after like one attack from the Hydra, and this shield is thick if you build this guy correctly. On top of that, we'll place a 15% decrease speed debuff for 1 turn on whichever enemy attacks this champion. Decrease speed, you cannot go wrong with that in any content you're doing. Anytime you can decrease the enemy's speed is going to be huge. So we have all of this going on, increases HP by 50%. Huge, 50% HP in all dungeons. So I mean, I saw people commenting on the video, which is why I had to add this guy here. Not that I wouldn't have anyways, but they said, Murder, I'm so glad you shined some light on Lord Chamfort. He's carried my account so far. I'm not at Hydra yet, but in all of my progression, he's been key. I know, and that's why I wanted to make this video, talk about these champions, because I think there's a lot of missed and lost potential in people's vaults that they're just not investing in for whatever reason. If one reason is going to be the in-game ratings, I can tell you right now, never look at them. They're a terrible. This should be gone from the game. These ratings mean nothing. There's millions of players and thousands of reviews. That should kind of be the first thing, but all you need to do is make the champion 6-star, I believe, and then you can rate them. So this is giving access to players who have no idea what they're talking about, able to troll the system or just to unknowingly go through this and rate them improperly, which is not good at all. So we got that covered. The next champion, Molly Tankard. Now, who in their right mind would think Molly Tankard isn't good? A lot of people. which is why I'm making this video. If you're shocked right now that I'm bringing up Molly Tankard as one of the most underrated champions in the game, this is why we're here. Have to talk about her. A1 ability. Damage increased by 50% of the targets under HP burn. We don't care about it at all. For the A2, give an AoE provoke for 1 turn with a 50% chance of increasing the duration to 2 turns. Places 30% reflect damage buff on this champion for 2 turns. Fantastic CC capabilities. We do have a revive. Revives an ally with 50% HP and fills the turn meter by 50% as well. Places block damage on that ally for 1 turn. This is really good because a lot of revivers revive a champion. They give them increased defense, increased whatever, and they still die anyways because they're glass cannon champions. This block damage, no damage can be done to the champion. They don't take damage from HP burn, poisons, anything like that. So value through the roof as far as what type of revive this is. And then the bread and butter of this champion, Rowdy Crowd. 2 turn cooldown. Once booked, it goes to a 1 turn cooldown. Fills the turn meters of all allies by 15% when this champion's hit, 25% when this champion's hit by a boss. Now, most people should understand turn meter gain is huge in this game. You can have increased speed champions, turn meter gain champions, all of the good stuff like that, but the fact that you can get this on hit is so strong. This is such a strong arena champion specifically. If you're tired of avoiding hegemon teams, put her in a team of champions with immunity gear on. There's a speed chart somewhere, I think it's in our clan, where you can build champions at 311 speed, 320 speed and immunity gear, and that shoots them all the way up to the 350s as far as what they're equivalent to after hegemon goes and hits Molly. So huge, 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 cannot stress that enough. She's such a strong champion in pretty much all content between her AoE provoke, really strong revive, even though it's single target, long cooldown. I do understand that, but the passive speaks for itself. I told you guys about the Law of 200. If you haven't seen that, definitely check out that video. It's going to change your progression a ton. But this champion combining with the Law of 200, I mean, this is almost flawless progression formula like coming together here. If you put those two together, you won't struggle with anything as long as everything is kind of on par. You can actually even downgrade your gear quality if you follow the Law of 200 with Molly Tankard because of how much of a benefit you do get from what her kit does, but mostly the passive here. So with that being said, let's move on to the next champion being War Chief. Now, I've done tons of War Chief videos. I'm a huge fan of War Chief. We have a triple hit here. Damage inflicted is proportional to defense, so it can hit hard. 25% chance of placing a provoke for 1 turn if booked. 35% chance. We don't really care about that. Provoke is nice for sure. It's so annoying. This is what's strong here. Attacks 1 enemy, places provoke debuff for 3 turns. Think about that. It's single target, I get it, but imagine this guy provoking a target, whether it's an arena, progression content for 3 turns that's been wiping your team. If they have block revive, this guy provokes them, steals 2 random buffs from the target. Also huge. A lot of dungeons have their buffs, if you look close enough, capped to 2 to 3 buffs total. So the fact that he can steal 2 of them, put it on himself, huge for survivability. On top of that, baseline, this is a 3 turn cooldown. 3 turns baseline, so he can keep the same target provoked 100% of the time. If you make this a 2 turn cooldown once booking it, you can stagger between 2 enemies and keep them almost 100% CC'd if you also do use this A1 ability. So the lockdown potential of this champion is incredible, but that's not all for War Chief. Standstill reflects 60% of the damage taken back to the attacker. Defense increases by 15% for each dead ally. So this guy's kit really shines on being the last man standing here. Reflects 60% of damage taken. I showed this recently in a arena video. I've seen Rhodos kill himself against the War Chief. I've seen Trundas one-shot themselves against War Chief. This passive is so underrated in this game. Thankfully, there's not an AoE version of this because no one would be able to hit them. You'd have to use single target champions. Unless they had a massive shield, they would still die, and crazy. If you use 2 War Chief and you get hit by a nuke hegemon, that nuke hegemon disappears faster than the animation of him hitting you. It's crazy. So great champion. I really like this guy. There's so many uses for him. Of course, he shines in Magma Dragon. That's pretty clear just based on reading his kit here, but so many other places with this lockdown potential of that provoke debuff and duration. It's just, there's so much benefit here. And the next one, another champion. You guys are going to say, Murder, how is this champion underrated? I don't get it. I don't get it either, which is why we're here talking about it. Sathalia, A1, 50% chance up to a 60 of placing that HP burn debuff for 1 turn. Pretty decent for an A1. This is the bread and butter here. 2-turn cooldown once fully booked. 3 turns if unbooked. Removes all debuffs from a target ally, then places block debuffs for 2 turns and heals the ally by 75% of their max HP. Heals all other allies by 20% of their max HP and fills their turn meters by 15% if the target is fully healed by this skill, which, I mean, it's going to be fully healed. This is a 75% heal of their max HP, so unless they're, like I said, below 25% HP, which is possible for sure, but to have that much damage taken when this champion should be fast, you can definitely build around this to make sure you're always getting the benefit of that secondary part of this skill here rather consistently. So as if this wasn't strong enough, being a 2-turn cooldown, we have this A3 here. Has a 75% up to 100% chance when booked of removing all buffs from all enemies. All. And she doesn't hit the targets. What does that mean? Weak affinity doesn't apply to this. So if there's a red champion with stacked buffs, see you later. I mean, of course you can get 3%, but it is what it is. Then decrease the turn meters of all enemies by 10% and fills the turn meters of all allies by 10%. Decreases the turn meters of all enemies by 20% and fills by 20 if 5 or more buffs were removed, which is very easy if you're facing a 5-man team. That means they'll have to have 1 buff on them for this to work, which is, like I said, the average is 2 to 3. So amazing asset for arena, amazing asset for general progression overall, healing, turn meter gain, turn meter decrease, HP burn for a little bit of extra damage if you want to get that use out of it for free since you're already building accuracy, decrease the turn meter. So much good on this champion's kit. Increases magic ally resist by 50 in all battles. This one's okay. I really don't like how they do specific affinities for this, but listen, any extra thing that can help you should help you, and I don't know why she's so undervalued by players, but she definitely shouldn't be. Moving on to the last champion we have here today, Visix the Unbowed. Now, Visix, I can definitely see where a lot of the mentality about how bad she is came from. She was very suboptimal for a long time. She was changed, and that change, I think people kind of just overlooked. She is such a strong progression champion. Now, my only argument in like beef with a champion like this is the fact that you get her too late into the game. If you pull someone like a Visix when you're day 50, day 60, day 65, your account is going to change. I'll go over her kit, but I really want you to understand what she does. We have a double hit here. Each hit has an 80% chance up to 100% chance on an A1, which is practically unheard of. So 100% chance here of decreasing the target's turn meter by 15%. Those this champion's turn meter equal to the amount that the target lost. So that's 30% total we're talking about here, since it's each hit. So that swap alone, massive. The next ability, Sinister Allies. An AoE ability, can be booked to 100% chance of applying decreased speed on everyone. She's void, so no weak hits. Then places an ally protection on the team minus herself, like how all ally protection works. And it's a 3-turn cooldown when fully booked. Crazy. So what they're doing is she's protecting the team and giving the enemy less turns to attack, reducing her overall damage, allowing her to get healed in between and all the other good stuff. Next, we have another brilliant addition to her kit in synergy with her A2, which we all know Plarium isn't the best at adding perfect synergy to champions' kits. Sometimes it's very counterproductive, but this champion's kit is so well rounded. Attacks all enemies, once again, double AoE here, placing a provoke debuff for 1 turn on the all enemies. Places a shield buff on this champion equal to 20% of their HP for 2 turns. This is a 4-turn cooldown, booked to a 3-turn cooldown when fully booked. So, I mean, I'm pretty sure just by me reading this out loud or you reading it yourself, you see the incredible benefit she can give in all content. I've seen her do amazing jobs in Fire Knight, Ice Golem, Dragon runs, Spider, a little bit crazy with the amount of damage that's incoming, but it can still work if you have an external source of someone either cleansing the poisons, giving her resist, or just someone stacking a large shield on her. So you can use her everywhere in progression. But like I said, the one flaw for this champion, and this can definitely be a viable reason to downplay her ability, it's Plarium making her part of such a late part of that free legendary you get from the login rewards. So I cannot really speak for people who are around, I believe it's day 280 maybe, when you would get Visixty in battle, then you have to rank her up, give her masteries, all of that things, maybe day 300-ish, if I'm correct with the 280, as far as when you can collect her. So 300 days into the game, no one's going to have the same progression 300 days into the game. So it's hard for me to say how big of a benefit she's going to be at that certain time. If you're a very casual player, she could be perfect for you. She can get you to the next steps, get you through all stage 25 dungeons, or you could have been there already and you don't really need her. So I can definitely see where the undervaluing comes from, but I think a lot of people have it too high in a level as far as what she's capable of. So the next thing is the aura increases defense and faction crypts by 37%. They redid a lot of auras on champions when they really wanted to push faction wars. I get it for sure. And there's one champion for some reason that I had that isn't showing up. So I'm going to have to quickly sort this by rank here. Go to my vault and find this guy manually. I know he's green affinity. And of course, he is not available here. And he is in fact in my vault. So instead of doing that, let's just go to the index here. Let's head down to Undead. Suzerain Catan here. So Suzerain Catan, you guys can tell me what you guys think about him. Generally curious. Base stats, nothing impressive. 15,000 health, rather low. 1,000 base defense, still rather low. Attack based champion. His attack's through the roof, don't get me wrong. I mean, 1,564. Just compare that to who you're using as a nuker. Compare their attack to this guy's attack. But that's not even the relevant part of this guy's kit. 98 base speed, once again, it leaves a lot to be desired, but look at his kit. Just really quickly before the skills, AoE, AoE, AoE. This screams, I am the perfect stun set champion in the game. Triple AoE skills, you're not losing value from that set anywhere, besides weak hits of course. So what do? We have a 35% chance of placing decreased speed on A1. Massive. Absolutely massive. Once booked, 50% chance of placing the decreased speed. Huge once again. The second AoE, 50% chance up to an 80% chance of placing a weaken on all of your enemies, and then 60% chance for 2 turns if the weaken debuff isn't placed to apply defense down. So if you have a defense down champion, you can use it. If you don't, you can kind of swap between any increased damage on your targets between weaken and defense down. So once again, huge stun set accuracy, so much value just from the first 2 skills alone. Now the second one is really interesting. Remove shield, block damage, unkillable from all enemies, then attacks them. Hello? Removes shield, block damage, and unkillable from all enemies, then attacks them. 100% heal reduction, not the best debuff in the game, but still can be viable if you are facing enemies that heal a lot in progression. The buff removal cannot be blocked or resisted, which means it doesn't need accuracy. However, this is one of the things I was talking about with conflicting kits and synergies. The A1 and the A2, they're too good to not build accuracy for, so the fact that they added this, it's just not realistic. It's not viable at all. If you wanted to use him only for the stun set, you didn't care about the 2 debuffs, I don't know why you wouldn't, but let's just say you have decreased speed already, or you don't care about it, and you have someone that applies defense down and weaken, even though it's one of the rarest combinations on a champion in the game here, and you just wanted to use it to remove shields in arena, block damage, or swift parry in arena, I can see it. You can do this. Resist champions would stand no chance against Suzerain Catan because it cannot be blocked or resisted. So I think she's very undervalued here. Increases attack in all battles by 33%. More of an endgame thing. Usually if you're early game, you're focused on survivability and getting your damage in where you can instead of just stacking damage and hoping to survive unless you got really lucky on your pulls. So that's going to conclude my list here today on the champions that I think are severely underrated, severely undervalued. If you think I missed someone, you know what to do. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think. What do you think about the champions that I listed here? Are you as shocked at some of the champions that I had to talk about here today based on all of the research and data I've gathered from just players talking about these champions? I know I was taken back at quite a few of them, but give me your feedback on that. Don't forget, if you guys enjoyed this content, smash that like button, subscribe, turn the notification bell, and I will see you all in my next upload.